All right, how's it going, guys? Ronin Man here. I'm going to talk today about wind at your back. And this started with a question from Siddharsan in Chennai, India, which is basically Madras, if you know the old name. And he asked, how much money do I need to start a business? And I thought about what he's really asking. So first thing I'm going to say, almost guaranteed this guy's never started a business, so it's the first one. So he's kind of saying he's wondering, there's a lot of doubts you have before you start something, right? You're like, how much do people need to start a business? What am I good at? What kind of business should I do? What will make me happy? Will I be homeless? Am I going to be Elon Musk? You have all these questions in your mind and you ask a simple question like, hey, how much money do I need? Right? But obviously, even when you ask the question, there's a million answers because, some people obviously buy buildings and they have huge capital outlays, and other businesses don't have any. And some businesses have investors that you need. Other businesses you do yourself. Some businesses require technical expertise, like drug discovery or, programming, artificial intelligence. So you got your own skills, but at the same time, you ask a simple question: how much money do I need? So I think the question is really, what do I do? How do I get going? I think that's the real question. And I think, okay, so how to start a business, how to get going. And I think the number one concept here is wind at your back. Okay? Wind at your back. So I'll just give you an idea of a couple things I did that kind of I felt the wind at my back. Like when I stopped drinking, right? When I went to the 12-step programs, I just kind of felt, I was 21 years old. I just felt like life was better after I stopped drinking, and I did drugs back then. I stopped, and I just felt like life was kind of better. Like it was kind of bad some nights where I was kind of lonely and stuff. But then I just kind of felt overall, kind of the wind was at my back. I was kind of going on the right direction, and it wasn't that clear in the beginning. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, it's so obvious. For me, it wasn't, because I did enjoy, partying. I enjoyed my friends. I enjoyed a lot of things about it. I was in a fraternity. I enjoyed hanging out at the fraternity house, and then it was all new, but there was that sense that wind was on my back, right? And so then when I finished college, I just felt like the wind was in my face in America. Whatever I tried to do, the wind was in my face. I went to job interviews. I did terrible. I was not wanted. They were not dying to hire me. And I think it was because I was not on track. It wasn't their fault. I didn't really want to do it. I interviewed at Sears and he gave me a math test. It was like calculus. All I wanted to do was work at Sears, and he gave me some kind of calculus test. And I did terrible in math. So I was failed, And I just felt like everything I talked to people, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So of course no one can help me. So the wind was not at my back. But then I said to myself, fuck it. What do young people do in this world? They go traveling. They go around the world, hunting tigers, whatever. You know what I mean? Theoretically in the old days, right? Just go around, young kids just get out. Are you going to San Francisco? That kind of thing in the 60s. And I'm going around the world. So I bought an around the world ticket. And as soon as I did, I knew the wind was at my back. I saw one of my old teachers at graduation, and he asked me, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to India. I'm going to go travel around the world. And he looked at me like a total loser. But it didn't bother me because I knew for myself I was doing the right thing. I wanted to see the world. And I didn't care at all about going to Wall Street or making money at the time. I just thought, man, I want to see stuff. And I could feel it inside my own internal system. The wind was at my back. And I went on that trip, and it was absolutely fucking the right thing to do. I mean, start to finish, I couldn't have done a better thing with my life. Or I could have worked at Sears and been the wrong guy in the wrong job, hating my job, hating my life, trying to force myself in the company, trying to get a better job in the company, trying to do things I hate, to get things I don't really care about, and just become confused, right? So then when I started businesses when I was 13. When I first did my first business, it was collecting cans and newspapers. So I was collecting cans and newspapers and trying to recycle them to get money. And my mom she said, I'll drive you to the recycle center. So I started like collecting cans and stuff. And then my friends had nothing to do. All we did was like skateboard, surf, do kid things, adventure. We were into adventure back then. And then basically get in fights and, just normal kid stuff, right? But my dad, I said to myself, well, fuck it. I started collecting cans and newspapers, and my friends who saw me, they started to help me. And so I said, okay, well, you guys can help, but I got to pay you something. So I started to give them candy. So we were all 13, right? So they would go out and collect, different, whatever it was I wanted, cans, newspapers, and I would give them chocolate bars and candy. And they were totally happy. But essentially, they were kind of like employees because I was getting paid. I remember when I would bring in the newspapers, I'd get like $41. We had to fill the Ford LTD, 71 LTD, all the way to the top with newspapers. Me and my mother didn't have any place to sit. We just had newspapers everywhere. The car was riding like a low rider down to the bottom, scraping the ground. And I got $41 for that. And then that bought a lot of candy bars. And I give my friends candy bars. They were happy. And the wind was at my back. My mom was helping me. She was happy. She was totally happy to overload the car. My friends were happy to help collect. And the business went well, And the newspapers went better than the cans. I think my friends didn't like collecting cans so much. So that didn't work out so much. But I was open to starting a business, doing something entrepreneurial. And I felt the wind at my back at the newspaper stuff. So I started collecting newspapers. I got a newspaper route. And I enjoyed it because I enjoy riding a bicycle. I enjoyed like the new skills I learned, like collecting money from people was difficult. Because I remember it was scary. I'm like a kid going to their door and some people wouldn't pay me. It was difficult to get them to pay. But I think that I learned a lot from that. Getting them to pay was key. They ordered a newspaper and some of them didn't want to pay. Or they would not answer the door. Or they would do something to hide. They would never be home, when I was there. Because they were hurting on money or whatever. But then they didn't cancel the newspaper. So my job was to get them to pay. And then I got $40 a month for that. And I just felt like I was always happy. I knew it was very small money, but I was always happy doing it. So the wind was at my back. The wind wasn't at my back money-wise. The wind wasn't at my back people helping me wise. The wind wasn't at my back in many ways, but it was at my back because I was peaceful when I was out riding my bicycle and delivering papers. And I liked the challenge I liked going to new neighborhoods because I could kind of do what I do now. I walk a lot. And so with these new neighborhoods, I would kind of explore. Even though I lived in the area, there was a lot of neighborhoods I didn't know that well. And all of a sudden I was having to go into each neighborhood every day. It was a 7-day-a-week newspaper. And so I got to learn a lot. And I was very happy. And so that's kind of the way I look at life, is I always stop and say, is the wind at my back on this one? Or am I forcing this one? So is it not working? And so when I start something, when you're starting a business, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so when I made my first YouTube channel, right, I had a video that went very viral. And I don't even know why it went viral, but it went super viral. And a lot of news channels started talking about it. People started talking about it. People started to want to interview me. And I was clueless. Sometimes it's not that obvious. Life is not that obvious. I didn't even see the wind was at my back. So I ignored that. So then, as I would go about my life, often I would be say I'm in the LA airport. And then, there'd be a news crew with a camera. And then they would come over and interview me. And I couldn't understand why they interviewed me. But for some reason, people would just interview me. And I would end up being on camera. So I would be on camera and I would talk about something. I never got paid, but I just like a news show here. Or I'd be working on something and then the news would interview me for that in Japanese or Chinese when I was traveling, when I was living over there. I never really saw it, but I remember one time I was in an airplane. I was flying to Japan from China. And I was sleeping. And this guy woke me up. And he pointed to the TVs. You know how there's 10 TVs in a row above your head? And he goes, you. And then I look at it, and it was me. And I was on this TV show. I had been interviewed on this TV show. And there it was being played on the airplane. So I said to my friend, you wouldn't believe it. I was flying here, and they were playing the episode, you know, of this TV show I was on. Isn't that amazing? And then the guy said to me, he goes, "That's not amazing." He goes, "You're good on camera. You're a good communicator." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "That show that you were on, there's like a million other episodes of that show. But the airplane company chose that show to be on the airplane, and they choose the most popular shows." Because my friend had experience in media. And he was like, "Yeah, that's what we do. We choose a popular episode. That's the one we put that's the one that goes on the airplane, right? We don't put a not popular episode on there." And I was like, "Oh." And I was kind of like, yeah, but you know, it's because I'm a foreigner, you know, speaking Chinese or whatever. And he's like, "No." He goes, "There's tons of foreigners that speak Chinese." He goes, "That's not why." He goes, "It's something else." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I kind of slowly learned that my communication skills were kind of wind at my back type thing. Yeah, I didn't have to try that hard. It was something that I was just kind of naturally good at, something I naturally enjoyed doing. So whether it's speaking at groups, motivating people, speaking at large conventions, explaining things, managing people, being on TV, interviewing people, that's stuff that wind is at my back. You know, I think Joe Rogan, that's the way he is. He's wind at his back and that stuff. And look at his podcast. So you say, how much money do you need? How much money does Joe need to get a microphone and plug it into his computer and upload it to YouTube? Not very much, right? So when you're talking about how much money you need to do something, you have to look honestly at yourself. And sometimes it's not very clear. So you need friends around you who will say the truth, whether you're bad at something or good at something. They're just going to kind of say, "Hey, you know," they'll kind of like that guy woke me up, the Chinese guy. He's like, you know, and my friend like forced me to understand that I had this skill. And I don't know why I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it. And so I think you're the same way. You have some skill that you don't recognize where the wind is at your back. It's just something you're fucking good at. It's nothing to brag about. It's just something the wind is at your fucking back on this thing, right? So look at that thing. And here's the thing about starting a business and life in general, is when you're fucking good at something, okay, is that other people will try to help you, okay? So for example, when I made the first, let me just go to Ronin Man, because you guys know Ronin Man. Ronin Man, my first two episodes, I made the first one, how not to be unblackmailable or something, and then I made the second one, and I felt like the second one was kind of a review of the first one. So I kind of felt like I was out of ideas. I was done with Ronin Man. 2 episodes, I felt, this is my mind, I felt like the second one was total shit. It was just a copy of the first one, and no one's going to want to listen to this. And I felt like, this unblackmailable thing's not that clear. I couldn't really explain it that well. I didn't even talk about it that much I was all these doubts in my mind. So then this young kid, this young Israeli, a friend of mine, he listened to the first 2 and he goes, "These are fucking fantastic." He goes, "I want to know more about it. I want to know more what you think about stuff." And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Let's make some more videos." He goes, "I'm going to interview you. I'm going to ask you questions." He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Yes, I want to know more. This is valuable shit." And I was ready to quit, okay? It was his pushing me that made me make the 3rd episode. And I felt like I had nothing else to give. Believe it or not, I felt like I had nothing else. I felt like I kind of talked about Unblackmailable a little bit. There was, I was kind of done with this. It wasn't working. It was obviously a bad idea because talking about women and talking about life, there's just too many people giving advice. It's not going to work. My mind was all full of doubts. I didn't feel like I had that much to give. And this friend of mine, Devere, he was like, "No, you have a lot to give. And I want to know. Not these other guys." He's like, "I want to interview you. It's not for the other people. I want to know. And when you do an episode, you often go deep. And that's when I want to be part of that." So I was like, okay. So I did it. And then the next thing you know, the next wind at my back realization was my friend Dimi. I interviewed him. And Dimi called me and he came to Bangkok and visited me. And he said, "Yeah, I just want to sit here and listen to you all day. I want to be able to ask you questions all day." And Dimi's a cool guy. Dimi's a smart guy. Dimi's a talented guy. Dimi's funny. He's got a lot of things going for him. And I was like, whoa, if a guy like this wants to hear me, And he was listening to Ronin, man, and he was loving my episodes. So I felt the wind at my back. So I think what you need to do is you need to start stuff, okay? It's not how much money do you need. It's what is the thing that you need to start, okay? And it's based on you. Is where is the wind at your back in life? What are things that you've done? They could be like something very subtle, that you look back in your life. It's not like you started Tesla. It's like you look at the things that people ask you to do. You look at things you enjoy doing, the things that you kind of have been told you're good at. And then you have to analyze them. Like, what does that really mean? Like, how do people that have that skill use that skill in life, right? Because sometimes, let's say that you have always found yourself welcome as a helper, like helping people, whether you're like helping the church set up things or whatever. You have to look deeper into that and say, what does that mean? Like, what was I actually fulfilling there? What was the things, a helper could be, for example, an operations manager. So one of my friends, he's very good at business, but one thing he's not good at is at operations. And he has an operations manager. And he always tells me he's very, very, very wealthy now. And he told me that the key thing he made, the biggest decision he ever made, smartest decision, was to find a good operations manager, because he's not good at operations. And his operations manager probably thought, I'm not good at sales, I can't succeed. But these two guys together made a perfect match. One guy was very good at business, getting big contracts, getting investment, getting partnerships, business development. And the other guy was very good at fulfillment, making sure that things went right. So those two guys together. So if you have a skill, it doesn't mean that you're a one-man gang. Some people don't have the skills to do everything by themselves. And some businesses require multiple skills and multiple people. I think the best way to think about your first business is to do your own business by yourself. In today's world, I think, something that you can do from your computer is I think that's the best way to think about your first business these days. So something that you and your computer and your fingers and your microphone or something like that, Skype, something that you can do without buying anything, really, just using the things that you have. I think that's the best way to get started. The reason why is because most businesses fail. And it's better to fail small than fail big, while you're learning. Okay? It's like when you fall down. You're starting to walk the first time. You want the kid to be on a nice soft surface because he's going to fall down, and you don't want him to be on the edge of a 1,000-foot cliff, right? Where everybody falls down, but you don't want it to be your last fall. You want to be able to survive that fall, right? So that's what I'm talking about here. Find a business, find something that you can survive the fall on, And I think that's often using what you have already, using the skills and looking deep into your life and where has the wind been at your back, and start to write those things down and start to analyze what that means. Go deeper. What do people that can do that do? Because mine started with the kids wanting to work for me to get chocolate bars. And then another wind at my back was when I found myself selling golf balls to Richard Nixon, because I went and got the balls out of the river. I talked about this before. I lived in the city where he lived, and I used to get the balls out, clean them up, and I was not afraid of the president. He would come play golf below our house. So I'd go down, I'd clean up the balls, and I'd ask him if he wanted to buy them. He would always buy them. And I had the sales skill, like most people would avoid him. He had all these, Secret Service around him. I wasn't afraid of that. I thought that was exciting. As a little kid, I thought, wow, I'm going to go talk to the president, I'm going to sell him a golf ball. And he was always very nice about it too. He always bought a golf ball. And he always said, what's your most expensive one? And I was, this one here, this Titleist, it's $1. He's like, oh, I'll take one of those, and he'd give me $1. And I always felt like that's awesome, And I couldn't see the wind was at my back, but my other friends were probably envious of me for being able to talk to the president, and he knew me because he would play golf, and whenever he played golf, I'd go down, run down there and do it. And so a lot of times when you're good at something, no one will tell you. Sometimes people will tell you. Sometimes they'll just quietly sit in the background and not tell you. Don't be that kind of friend. Be the kind of friend who's willing to go be generous with your friends. When you start to get the mindset of telling your friends they're awesome and what they're good at, and noticing other people, look at other people. Where is the wind at their back? If you can't figure it out for yourself, start to look at your friends and say, you know what? Dude, you are a good looking fuck. You should do this. You should be a model. You should do this. Start to think about other people if you can't figure it out for yourself. So where is the wind at their back? And then, of course, they might not want to start a business, but start to notice where the wind is at other people's backs. And then you'll start to realize, wow, the wind. I think that spirit of generosity, of giving, of noticing will help you to be generous to yourself and to find that thing that you actually, the wind is at your back, right? So look, if you need a baby step, and I think it's a very important step actually now that I think about it, is that generosity and willingness to give and willingness to contribute. And then to look at yourself with that same attitude, almost like you don't know yourself. Like, who is this guy? What is he good at? What does he find himself happy doing? And then as you go down that road, when you find that thing, okay, this is the thing. I mean, entrepreneurship it's like a hurricane in your face. Trees flying, shingles hitting you in the face. It's not easy. Okay, I'm not saying it's easy. It's fucking hard. Okay. You're going to feel many times totally depressed. The wind at your back doesn't mean it's easy. The wind at your back doesn't mean that it's clear. I'm just saying, just notice if the wind just puffs you in the back and that somehow something works, something you didn't expect, something was easier than you thought, something went through that you didn't think would go through, somebody helped you that you didn't think they would help you, something just kind of good happened that you didn't expect. And then just notice that, no matter how hard it is, because of course things are going to be hard. And I think that the final thing I want to say is 1 + 1 is 3. So whatever it is, whether it's a friendship, a love relationship, or a business, if 1 + 1 is always 0.9, you are in the wrong business, you are in the wrong relationship, you're in the wrong career, you're living in the wrong place. 1 + 1 should be 3 most of the time when you're on track. 1 + 1 should be 3. Sometimes it's going to be 10. But if it's always less than 2, you got to look at yourself. You got to be honest. And the reason why it's not really scary to be honest, here's why it's not scary, is because, okay, think about this tour, okay? So the Ronin tour. I started the tour with the idea that I was going to do this tour until to give me basically to something to do while I was working on something. Okay, I had something I was doing. I'm doing something very important, and I wanted to come to America, get that done, figure that one out, and I wanted something to do in the meantime. I wanted to figure out what was the best thing I can do. So I said, you know what I should do? I've never had an event in America. I'm going to do summits in America. I'm going to meet people in America. I'm going to see America. And I'm going to make new friends, make new connections. I'm going to spark my imagination. I'm going to enlarge my life. I'm going to lose fear of America because I haven't lived here for 32 years. So for me, this is all new. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to ace this place. I'm going to ace America, right? And that was kind of my attitude. So then I started the tour. Now, the original tour was planned to go to certain cities. We didn't go to most of those cities. We went to totally new cities, totally different cities. But the thing is, once I was started, once I was on the road, it was easy to succeed because I had no other choice. Once we were in Phoenix, the beginning of the tour was actually the most difficult. Things were the most unclear. There was the least wind at my back at the beginning. But then once we got to Austin, the wind got at my back. I'm like, wow, this is working out. Like, this is right. I could feel it. I'm like, fuck yeah, double down. This is awesome. Ozarks was great. It was like boom, 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 boom. Everything fell into place. And I knew the beginning struggle where the wind was at my face was worth it, you know. And so I think that you need to constantly reevaluate. I had something I was going to say here. I can't remember what it was. But your business is not about money. People will help you when you have the right idea, when the wind is at your back. These other people in the world are not stupid. Okay, look around you, just wherever you are, just whatever buildings you can see. Maybe you can see, right now you can see a house that you're in. You can see other houses out the window. Maybe you can see apartments. Maybe you can see other buildings. Maybe you can see factories. I don't know what you can see, but what can you see? Whatever it is, it's usually some kind of a store of value. So even land is a store of value. People buy land, they use that land, they utilize that land for mining, for whatever it is. They sell it to a hotel. You know, they do something with the land. They do that. The land is an asset, right? Buildings are stores of value. People buy things, they invest in things in order to get a return. And everything around you is like that. And what that means is that there's a lot of money around you. People have money. Every house you see has some kind of, almost all houses have, unless the market is crashing, there's some kind of appreciation. There's some kind of capital, okay? And there's net gain in these things. People have money. What do people want to do with money? They want to find somebody. This is what most older guys want. They want to find somebody or something where they're old, okay, but they want to find a young guy who the wind is at his back, and they want to help him, invest in his business, and then benefit from that. So they want to take their money and they want to give it to somebody else who's in that stage of life where they're growing and they're earning, and the wind is at their back. That's what old guys want. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a young entrepreneur, whether it's an official entrepreneur like an Elon Musk with a public company, or it's some guy in their neighborhood making pastrami. Okay, that's what people with money are looking for. So when you have the wind at your back, the reason why I say how much money do you need is not that important is because once you're in the right place, okay, once you've been honest with yourself, that you're not good at a lot of things. The wind is not at my back with most businesses, okay, don't get me wrong. But you find the thing that you are and you're in the right place, things will start to fall into place, okay? And what you will do is, I know it sounds, entrepreneurial journey sounds, they say 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Okay, but there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs. What that means is they started 10 businesses. But also, I want to say, and I've never heard this, but they didn't start, a guy like Elon Musk who starts a rocket company, a car company, and a boring company, that's very rare. Most people, when they pivot, they only pivot a tiny bit. Like they basically are doing what they're going to do. So if they're painting houses, they might end up sealing garage floors or something. It's not that different. So once the wind is at your back, or you feel it, or when you feel the wind's not at your back, it's not like a failure. It's just that you need to pivot. You need to pivot. You're on the right track, but you need to pivot. You need to do something a little bit different. So when I look at my businesses, although I couldn't see it at the time, in hindsight, I can see that I was on the right track as far as like the tour goes, but the cities were wrong, okay? The cities didn't make sense. I ended up going to the cities where people were there and wanted me to come. And that made more sense than going to new cities. Because it wasn't about traveling. It wasn't about seeing things for me. It was about enlarging my group of friends. It was about learning. It was about exploring America. And it was about wind at my back. And so it was about a win-win situation in each city. So staying with somebody where they wanted me to be there, I wanted to be there. They wanted to show me the area. I wanted to learn about the area. They wanted to talk. I wanted to learn from them. And there was very much an upward spiral we talked about in the last episode. There was an upward spiral in each interaction. And in general, the wind was at my back. Okay? So that's what you want to look for. Look, and don't always look at yourself. Look at other people. And remember that the pivot, the failure, it's just a pivot. That's all it is. It wasn't a failure for me not to go to Salt Lake City. It was a pivot. It was based on the situation. I couldn't see going to Salt Lake City. It just didn't make sense. People wanted us. There was a bunch of people in Austin. Austin ended up being a great city for the tour, in a great way to that was kind of the beginning of the tour, really, Austin. And that's when things started to fucking fall into place. Just miraculous things happened. Kenji called. Kenji's like, hey, we're here. Come on by my place. That's right. We were at Scott's place. And then Gia contacts us. We were getting ready to leave. Gia's like, come on over here. Go to Gia's place. Gia with a super great win-win experience there. And then Kenji's like, hey, I'm here. You come see me, And then we went to Kenji's, and Kenji had just had an accident. It was a great time to be there for him. And I want to talk to you, Kenji. I want to make sure, I'm really glad to hear that you're doing well. You're the man, dude. You're pulling through this. I don't want to get into details of what he's going through, but it's like he's pulling a heavy trailer right now, and and I can see he's pulling it successfully. And that's awesome. So there was win-win situations for everybody, and there was wind at my back. And again, that doesn't mean it wasn't easy. So when the wind's at your back, notice other people, and notice other people who the wind is at their face all the time. This also helps. Notice your friends that are just fucking up over and over, doing the same thing, and it's not working. They're in the wrong situation, but they're trying to force it. They're trying to force a relationship. They're trying to force a business. They're trying to force something, and it's just not working. And you realize that they don't need that much flexibility. They just need a little pivot, right? It's like just a small pivot, right? You might pivot from cricket to baseball or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's like not, you got a bat, you got a ball, you got people running around. It's like, Abe that we talked to in Albuquerque, he wants to do, he was talking about he's an expert in camels. He was a part of a tribe in Yemen, and he knows camels, and he's interested in camel milk. He thinks it's the best thing. I said, you should buy some camels. You should have a YouTube channel and specialize in camel milk. Talk about, the guys that are 100, something years old who only drink camel milk, and show reality. If you're on to something, if you have that expertise, give it a try. Now, I don't know if he wants to be an entrepreneur. Maybe he doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. But I can see very clearly that guy is uniquely valuable in the camel milk space. He grew up as a tribesman in a wandering tribe with camels. He knows everything about taking care of camels. This guy is the real deal. And he has it. And here he is trying to fit into like Albuquerque. I'm like, dude, don't do that. Be the guy you are, And now whether he does that as business or if he learns and grows from this, that's all good. Maybe he'll buy a camel, have a camel as a pet, as you might have a horse or something, and drink the milk himself. Whatever it is, there might be something else that he wants to get from that. But notice other people. And as I notice other people notice me. There's a win-win there. Like when you care about other people, they care about you. If you're just selfishly saying, I want to start a business, I need to find what I'm good at, and then you don't notice anybody else, you're not going to have the wind at your back when it comes to other people. Because people are going to know you're a selfish prick. You need to start to think about other people. Look for the good. Look at other people. Well, the things you want, other people want. Guaranteed. Okay? People want friendship. People want success. Be that guy that is out there. And also, this will also lubricate the wheels for you. It's like reading someone else's poetry and sussing it out. If you're a poet, helps you to write your own poetry. Because you're like, wow, this is really good. Oh my gosh, this is Mozart. This is genius. This is wonderful. This is unique. And then you start the wheels are turning in your own mind and you come up with something, right? So it's kind of like, I say, you want to be totally focused and you want to look for your skills, but it's a collaborative thing. And I'm very grateful for everybody who is that wind at my back, even if it is win-win for them. I'm very grateful for everybody who is part of that interaction that is a wind at my back, you know? And I want to say thank you to everybody listening to the channel, everybody who comments, everybody who shares. This is wind at my back stuff. It's stuff I can't do, you know? So I'm very grateful when somebody else does something for me, and I want to bring out the best in you. And that's the whole reason why I pontificate on these things, you know? So I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been useful. So those are the questions I would ask when you have that question, Siddharsan. All right, guys, thanks for listening. And I don't know where we're going to be next, but I know I'm here in New Jersey having a great time with my friend, and it's going to be fucking awesome. And I'm going to enjoy another beautiful day here, and it really has turned out to be a nice day. So thanks for listening.